disheartening when people say, oh, I love the cuts, because what I try to do most of all is to involve the people in the film to such an extent that they're inside the film and they do not notice anything about it. They are transported. There's really very little magic involved. We deal with the bits and pieces of film and manipulate them in such a way that they're the most powerful for an audience.
The film editor, the most unsung member of the motion picture team, but undoubtedly one of the most important. Exactly how an editor decides to manipulate those bits and pieces of footage can make or break a movie. Among the young generation of women film editors is Carol Littleton, whose impressive credits include Body Heat, The Big Chill, Places in the Heart, and E.T., for which she won an Oscar nomination.
I think the editors whose work I admire most are those whose style is totally compatible with the picture they're working on. Well, first who comes to mind, I would suppose, is Dee Allen, who has more or less revolutionized the whole notion of film editing. With Dee, her style of editing never draws attention to itself.
I knew you never robbed the place, you faker.
Bonnie and Clyde, the 1967 film by Arthur Penn, became the highest-grossing film of that decade.
If the editing broke new ground, it was because Arthur was saying, to hell with the match. I want it faster, faster, faster.
If the pacing of Bonnie and Clyde was unusual for its time, so is the career of Dee Allen. She began as a messenger for Columbia Pictures in 1943.
Because I came out of a period when you didn't get jobs because they said, well, they'll get married and they'll have children and then they won't be able to work.
Since then, being unconventional is her specialty. Dog Day Afternoon, Little Big Man, Reds, The Breakfast Club.
You can't be careful. You can't be cautious. You can't worry about, does your cut match? Does it look good? What will the studio think? I mean, if I worried about that, not only would it just wouldn't be me.
Unlike most of the other motion picture crafts, the field of editing has always been open to women. Director Dorothy Arzner began as an editor under Cecil B. DeMille and edited the Valentino silent classic, Blood and Sand. Her imaginative cutting brought her to the attention of Paramount chiefs.
She was sweet and funny and did some very, very interesting stuff. She was one of the first to prove that women are not completely foolish.
Another pioneer is Margaret Booth. Her career began with D.W. Griffith and flourished at MGM, where for 3 decades, no film left the studio without her imprint. She controlled the editing of nearly 50 classics, including Mutiny on the Bounty and Camille. Now, in her mid-80s, Margaret Booth is, within the film community, a genuine legend. A legend who continues to take an active role. Her hand can be seen on some of the best-loved films of recent years. Annie.
Gotta do is call this lawyer acquaintance of mine.
The Goodbye Girl.
Whoa, whoa, what?
And The Way We Were.
Broadly speaking, what makes a good film editor?
Well, you have to know rhythm, and you have to know a scene. You have to know if a scene drops, or if it doesn't drop, or if it's sustained. You know, you have to feel that in your work. So you don't. You see, the trouble nowadays, I feel, and with television, they just chop, 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 chop back and forth, and there's no feeling of, you know, feeling on the scene.
How to build a scene.
How to build a scene, you see.
Do pioneering women see themselves as pioneers?
Pioneer. I feel like that hopefully I am continuing a tradition of women editors. But I really don't feel like a pioneer. I feel like the pioneering has happened by those like Margaret Booth and Dee Allen.
Yes, I think that I was one of the first. I really do.
We were all pioneers, But the women today are pioneers.
I have many contemporaries, ladies my age, who I feel are extremely gifted, and we're simply picking up where they left off.